The last thing I saw before I died was the man I had betrayed my family for smiling as he locked the door and left me inside the burning building. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Tell me in the comments what you would do if you received a second chance to correct the worst mistake of your life. Now let us begin. Part 1. I opened my eyes with smoke still trapped inside my lungs. My body jerked upright and I dragged in a desperate breath. There was no fire around me. No locked door. No unbearable heat crawling across my skin. I was sitting in my childhood bedroom. Morning sunlight touched the pale walls. My old university books rested on the desk. The silver clock beside my bed showed 7:30. I stared at the date on my phone. October 18th. 3 years before my death. A knock came from the door. "Milo, are you awake?" My mother's voice made my heart stop. She had died 6 months before me in my previous life. The heart attack had come after our family company collapsed. I had not even been at the hospital during her final moments, because Luca had convinced me that my parents were trying to manipulate me. I stumbled across the room and opened the door. My mother stood there wearing the blue dress I remembered from that day. Her expression was tired but gentle. "Milo?" I pulled her into my arms. She froze in surprise. I was 26 years old, but I cried against her shoulder like a frightened child. She touched my hair and asked what was wrong. "I missed you. You saw me last night." "I know." She stepped back and studied my face. "Is this because of the marriage discussion?" Those words confirmed everything. This was the morning my parents would ask me to marry Ronan Veyr. Ronan was a 33-year-old dominant alpha, and the CEO of Veyr Industries. He controlled the largest technology and security company in the Northern Territories. Business leaders lowered their voices when they mentioned him. Rival alphas avoided looking directly into his eyes. Rumors claimed he had destroyed an entire criminal organization after they threatened one of his employees. In my previous life, I had refused him without even agreeing to a meeting. I had been in love with Luca then. Luca was handsome and charming. He knew exactly which words would make an Omega feel special. When my parents warned me that he was interested in our family's research company, rather than me, I accused them of being cruel. I left home and married him. 2 years later, Luca controlled my shares. My father was arrested using false evidence. My mother died from the stress. On the night I discovered Luca had sold our company's medical research, he trapped me inside an abandoned laboratory and set it on fire. I still remembered his final words. "You were useful, Milo. That was all. Milo, you do not have to accept the marriage," my mother said. "Your father and I only want you to meet Ronan. The final decision belongs to you." In my first life, I had not listened to anything after hearing Ronan's name. This time I held my mother's hands. "I will marry him." Her eyes widened. "You have not met him yet." "I know enough. Milo, this is not something you should decide because you are angry with Luca." "I am not angry with Luca." The coldness in my voice surprised even me. "I simply understand him now." We went downstairs together. My father was waiting in the dining room. Gideon Arden had always seemed indestructible to me, until I saw him in prison during my previous life. He had looked 20 years older behind that glass wall. Seeing him alive and free nearly broke my control again. He stood when I entered. "If you do not want this meeting, I will cancel it." "I want it." My father exchanged a worried look with my mother. Before either of them could speak, the doorbell rang. My blood ran cold. Ronan was not supposed to arrive until noon. Our housekeeper entered a moment later. "Mr. Veyr is here." Silence filled the room. The front doors opened, and a tall man in a black suit walked inside. Ronan Veyr did not need to raise his voice to command attention. His presence changed the air itself. His dark hair was pushed away from his forehead. A thin scar crossed his right eyebrow. His eyes were a strange shade between gray and blue. Those eyes settled on me immediately. In my previous life, I had seen him only once from a distance. It was at my father's trial. Ronan had been watching from the back of the courtroom. I had assumed he was there to enjoy our destruction. Now I wondered if I had misunderstood that too. "Mr. and Mrs. Arden," he said. "Thank you for receiving me earlier than planned." My father looked cautious. "Is there a problem?" "Someone attempted to access the confidential marriage agreement last night." My heart began beating faster. Only our family and Ronan's lawyer knew about that agreement. There was one other person who had discovered it in my previous life. Luca. Ronan walked toward me. "Milo Arden." His voice was calm, but his gaze was sharp. "You already know who I am." "Yes." "Then you know why people fear me." "I know what they say." "And you still agreed to meet me." "I did more than that." My parents watched me with growing confusion. I held Ronan's gaze. "I decided to accept the marriage." For the first time his controlled expression changed. It was only a slight movement, but I saw genuine surprise in his eyes. "You have not read my conditions." "I will." "You might dislike them." "Then we can negotiate." Ronan came closer. His alpha presence pressed against my senses, but I refused to lower my head. "What do you want from this marriage?" In my previous life I would have said freedom or love. Those things had become weapons in Luca's hands. "I want my family protected. I want complete authority over my shares. I want access to any investigation involving Arden Medical." Ronan studied me for a long moment. "And what are you offering me?" "Loyalty." "That is an expensive promise." "It is the only promise I will never break again." Something unreadable passed through his eyes. Before he could answer, the front doors opened again. Luca rushed inside. He was 28 and looked exactly as I remembered. Golden hair. Perfect smile. Gentle brown eyes hiding a hunger I had mistaken for love. "Milo." He crossed the room quickly. "I heard your parents were forcing you to marry that man." My mother stepped forward. "No one is forcing him." Luca ignored her and reached for my wrist. "I came to take you away." His fingers never touched me. Ronan caught Luca's arm in midair. The room became dangerously still. "Do not touch my future husband without his permission," Ronan said. Luca pulled away and looked at me with practiced pain. "You cannot want this. You told me you loved me." In another life those words had cost my family everything. I removed the necklace Luca had given me and placed it in his hand. "Whatever I felt for you is dead." Anger flashed across his face before the wounded expression returned. "You will regret this." "I already did." Luca stared at me as if he had heard something impossible. Then he left without another word. Ronan turned toward my parents. "I need to speak with Milo privately." My father hesitated, but I nodded. Ronan led me into the study and locked the door. I expected questions about Luca. Instead, he removed a sealed envelope from inside his coat and placed it on the desk. "I received this 3 days ago." I opened it carefully. There was a photograph inside. My hands began to shake. It showed the laboratory from my final night. Flames surrounded the building, and a figure stood behind an upstairs window. That figure was me. The date printed beneath the photograph was 3 years in the future. I looked up at Ronan. His face remained calm, but his eyes held the same grief I had seen in my own reflection that morning. "How do you have this?" Ronan stepped closer. "Because you are not the only one who remembers dying." End of Part 1. Part 2. I stared at Ronan without speaking. The photograph trembled between my fingers. "You died too?" Ronan moved to the window and looked outside before answering. 3 days after you." The room suddenly felt smaller. In my previous life I had believed Ronan was only a distant spectator. He had appeared at my father's trial and vanished before I could speak to him. I never knew that he had continued watching our family. How did it happen? "My car exploded on the road outside the city." His voice remained controlled, as if he were describing the death of a stranger. "The investigators blamed a mechanical failure. I knew it was not an accident. I was carrying evidence that could have cleared your father and exposed Luca Maris." My grip tightened around the photograph. "You knew Luca was responsible?" "I suspected him long before your family collapsed." I tried to warn your father, but Luca had people inside Arden Medical. Every message I sent was intercepted. Why were you helping us? Ronan turned around. His gray-blue eyes rested on me. Because I had promised to protect you. My heart missed a beat. We had never even spoken. That did not make the promise less real. Before I could ask what he meant, Ronan pointed at the photograph. I did not take that picture. It was waiting inside my private office 3 days ago. No one entered the room according to the security recordings. Then someone else remembers. Or someone knows what will happen. Neither possibility gave me comfort. I placed the photograph on the desk. Why did you arrange the marriage again? In my first life, our families proposed it. You refused before I could meet you. This time I contacted your father myself. You wanted to keep me close. I wanted to keep you alive. The honesty in his answer unsettled me more than a beautiful lie would have. Ronan removed a small tablet from his coat. He opened a security report and handed it to me. Someone had attempted to steal the marriage agreement at 11:40 the previous night. The attacker used an authorized account belonging to my father's assistant. Daniel Cho has worked for my father for 12 years, I said. His account was copied. The real Daniel was attending a charity dinner when the attack happened. Can you trace the person who used it? My team traced the signal to a private apartment owned by a holding company. Ronan moved his finger across the screen. A photograph appeared. I recognized the building immediately. Luca had taken me there many times during our relationship. He told me it belonged to a friend who lived abroad. It is Luca's apartment. We cannot prove that yet. I can. I remembered the entrance code. My fingers moved across the tablet and I wrote 6 numbers. Ronan studied them. How do you know this? I spent 2 years living with Luca in my previous life. A shadow crossed his expression. It looked almost like jealousy, but it disappeared too quickly for me to be sure. Did you love him? I thought I did. That was not my question. The sharpness in Ronan's voice made me look at him. Yes. I loved him enough to destroy everyone who truly cared about me. Silence stretched between us. Ronan stepped closer. Do you still love him? I remember the sound of the door locking while I begged him to let me out. My voice broke despite my efforts to control it. I do not think love can survive that. Ronan's hand lifted as if he wanted to touch my face. He stopped before making contact. You will never have to beg anyone to save you again. I wanted to believe him. Trust had become a dangerous thing, but something in Ronan's expression made my chest ache. A knock interrupted us. My father entered after Ronan unlocked the door. The marriage lawyer has arrived. Milo, I need to be certain about this. You have known Luca for 2 years and Ronan for less than an hour. I knew Luca for 5 years if I count the life he took from me. The thought remained unspoken. Instead I said what my father needed to hear. Luca tried to access the marriage agreement last night. My father looked at Ronan. Are you certain? We have enough evidence to begin an investigation, Ronan answered. Not enough to accuse him publicly. My father's face hardened. What does Luca want with our company? The same thing he wanted before, I said. The neural recovery research. Both men looked at me. Arden Medical had spent a decade developing a treatment that could repair damaged nerve pathways. Only a few people knew how close the project was to completion. My father lowered his voice. How do you know about that project? I had not learned the truth until Luca stole it. I needed an explanation that would not make my parents question my sanity. I saw files on Luca's computer several weeks ago. They mentioned Project Meridian. That was enough. My father immediately took out his phone and ordered a complete security audit. We joined my mother and the lawyer in the dining room. The marriage agreement was placed before me. Ronan's conditions were strict but reasonable. We would live together at Veyr House for 1 year. We would appear as a couple at public events. Neither of us could interfere with the other's personal assets. There was no demand for affection or physical intimacy. I added my own conditions. Ronan would protect my parents and investigate anyone connected to Luca. I would retain complete authority over my company shares. If either of us discovered evidence of betrayal, we would show it to the other before acting. Ronan accepted every condition. The lawyer handed us 2 pens. My mother placed her hand over mine. You can still change your mind. I looked at the people around the table. My parents were alive. Ronan was alive. The future had not been written yet. I have never been more certain. I signed my name. Ronan signed beneath it. The moment his pen left the paper, my phone began ringing. Luca's name appeared on the screen. I rejected the call. He called again. Then a message arrived. You have no idea what Ronan did to you in your first life. A second message followed. Ask him why he was at the laboratory before the fire began. I looked across the table. Ronan was already watching me. What did he say? I showed him the messages. Ronan's face gave nothing away, but his hands slowly closed around the pen. Were you there? I asked. Yes. The single word hit me like ice. Why? Because I knew Luca was planning to kill you. Then why did you not stop him? Ronan looked toward my parents and the lawyer. We should not discuss this here. No. I want the truth now. His jaw tightened. I reached the laboratory before the fire. I found you inside, but you were unconscious. When I tried to carry you out, someone attacked me. My memories shifted. There had been another voice in the building. I had assumed it belonged to one of Luca's men. What happened after that? When I woke, the building was burning, and you were trapped upstairs. The stairway had collapsed. I could not reach you. Pain entered his eyes for the first time. I heard you calling for help. The room fell silent. Ronan had been there. He had tried to save me. Luca's message had been designed to make me doubt him. Before I could answer, an alarm sounded from Ronan's tablet. He looked at the screen and stood so quickly that his chair struck the wall. What is it? My father asked. Ronan turned the tablet toward us. A live security feed showed the front of our house. My mother appeared on the recording leaving through a side door 10 minutes earlier. She climbed into a black car. The man driving it wore the uniform of our family chauffeur, but I did not recognize his face. I turned toward the chair beside me. My mother was no longer there. Her phone rested on the table. A new message appeared on my screen. It was from Luca. You chose Ronan. Now choose which parent you want to keep. End of Part 2. Part 3. Ronan took control before panic could overwhelm the room. He ordered his security team to lock every exit and trace the black car. My father called the police while I tried to reach my mother's phone. It remained on the table. Luca had planned this carefully. My phone rang again, but this time the call came from a hidden number. Ronan activated the speaker. Luca's voice filled the room. Did you enjoy signing your marriage agreement? Where is my mother? She is safe for now. A video appeared on my screen. My mother was sitting in a dark room with her hands tied in front of her. She looked frightened but unharmed. A masked man stood behind her. If you hurt her, I will destroy you. Luca laughed softly. You used to tell me that you could never hate me. I was wrong about many things. Ronan has already poisoned your mind. No. You did that yourself. His pleasant tone disappeared. Cancel the marriage and bring me the Project Meridian access drive. Come alone to the abandoned warehouse beside South Terminal at 2 this afternoon. That drive is inside a protected vault. You have the authority to remove it. If I give it to you, then you will release her? You have my word. Your word means nothing. Luca ended the call. My father immediately headed toward the door. I will get the drive. No, I said. He turned toward me. That is your mother. And Luca will kill her after he gets what he wants. I cannot do nothing. We are not doing nothing. Ronan replayed the video. He studied every shadow and sound while his security team traced the call. The signal had moved through servers in several countries. The video may not be live, my father said. It is live, I answered. How can you know? I pointed to the window behind my mother. A distant bell sounded 3 times. Then came the low vibration of a train passing underground. I remembered that sound. Luca once took me to an abandoned medical clinic in the Eastern District. He said he was meeting an investor. I waited inside his car for almost 2 hours and heard the same bells every 15 minutes. The warehouse is a trap. They are holding her at St. Oran Clinic. Ronan searched the address. The clinic had closed 9 years earlier after a fire damaged one of its treatment wings. An underground train tunnel ran directly beneath it. My father looked at me with suspicion and fear. "You said Luca took you there." "Yes." "When?" "Several months ago." It was another lie, but I could not tell him that it happened in a future that no longer existed. Ronan did not question me. He contacted his team and ordered them to surround the clinic without approaching the main building. "I am coming with you," I said. "No. She is my mother." "That is exactly why you should stay here." "I know the building. Your team does not." Ronan looked ready to argue. I stepped closer and lowered my voice. "You said I would never have to beg someone to save me again. Do not make me remain here and beg you to bring my mother back." Something softened in his expression. "You stay beside me at all times." "I will. If I tell you to run, then you run." "I understand." Ronan opened a locked case that one of his guards carried into the room. He gave me a small communication device and a protective vest. My father pulled me into his arms before we left. "Bring her home." "I will." The drive to St. Oran took less than 20 minutes. Ronan sat beside me in the armored car. His hand rested close to mine, but he did not touch me. "What happened to your mother in the first life?" he asked. "She died after your company refused to purchase Arden Medical." His expression darkened. "I offered to purchase it to prevent Luca from controlling the research. He rejected every proposal using your authority." My stomach twisted. Luca had told me Ronan was trying to steal our company. Every truth I discovered revealed another lie. I signed whatever he placed in front of me. "You trusted him." "I was a fool." "You were manipulated." "There is a difference." The car stopped 2 streets from the clinic. Ronan's team had already taken their positions. We entered through a service tunnel at the back of the building. The walls smelled of dust and old chemicals. Broken lights hung from the ceiling. I recognized the corridor. "Turn left," I whispered. Ronan signaled to his guards. We reached a locked door at the end of the hall. A sound came from inside. My mother was coughing. Ronan's men broke the lock and entered first. The room appeared empty, except for my mother sitting beneath a single light. I ran toward her. "Milo, stop." Ronan grabbed the back of my vest. A thin wire stretched across the floor. It was connected to a container hidden behind my mother's chair. One of the guards examined it. "Gas release mechanism." My mother's eyes widened. "Get out. It is a trap." Ronan's team disabled the wire and removed the container. I reached my mother and untied her hands. She wrapped her arms around me. "I knew you would find me." "Did they hurt you?" "No. The driver brought me here after saying your father had been in an accident. Luca spoke through a video call, but he never came inside." A door slammed somewhere above us. Ronan touched his communication device. Movement on the 3rd floor. We heard footsteps running through the building. Ronan ordered 2 guards to remain with us while he followed the others. "I am coming," I said. "No. Take your mother outside." Before I could object, he disappeared into the stairwell. My mother gripped my hand. "There was another man here." "What did he look like?" "I never saw his face, but Luca called him Dr. Kells." The name meant nothing to me. It meant something to my father. When we reached the armored car, I called him. For several seconds he said nothing. "Damon Kells worked on Project Meridian during its earliest stage," my father finally said. "Why have I never heard of him?" "I removed him from the project. He wanted to test the treatment before it was safe. 3 patients nearly died because of him." "Where is he now?" "He died 8 years ago." My mother looked at me. "Then Luca was speaking to a dead man." An explosion shook the clinic. Smoke burst from the third floor. Ronan. I tried to run back, but the guard stopped me. His voice came through my earpiece. I am alive. Stay outside. Moments later, Ronan emerged from the smoke with blood on his temple. His team dragged the false chauffeur behind them. The man refused to speak. Ronan placed him inside another vehicle and climbed into ours. I reached toward the wound on his forehead. You are hurt. It is only a cut. My fingers touched his skin before I could stop myself. Ronan became completely still. For one brief moment the danger around us disappeared. His eyes lowered to my lips and my heart began beating too quickly. My phone interrupted us. It was my father. I answered immediately. Milo, someone is inside the house. A crash sounded through the call. Dad! The vault! His voice became weak. They opened it. The line went silent. Ronan ordered the driver to return to the house. When we arrived, my father was unconscious beside the dining room table. He was breathing, but there was blood on the back of his head. The research vault stood open. The Project Meridian drive was gone. Ronan checked the security recordings. At 1:43, a person entered the vault using my private code and biometric scan. The camera captured his face clearly. My mother stared at the screen. That is impossible. The person who had stolen the drive looked exactly like me. He had my face. He had my voice. He even had the small scar beneath my left eye. Ronan watched the recording again. This was not manipulated. I felt the room tilt beneath me. Then who is he? My father opened his eyes. His hand closed around my wrist. Milo. That man was here before you arrived. Fear filled his voice. He said he was the version of you who survived. End of Part 3. Part 4. My father was taken to the guest room, where Ronan's private doctor examined him. The injury was serious but not life-threatening. He had a concussion and needed rest. My mother remained beside him, while Ronan increased the security around the house. I stood in front of the screen and watched the recording again. The other Milo moved like me. He used his right hand to open the vault, even though the scanner was positioned closer to his left. I had always done that because of an old injury in my left wrist. He knew the private code. He knew where my father kept the emergency key. He even paused before entering the vault, and looked toward the portrait of my grandfather. I always did the same thing. There must be an explanation, I said. Ronan stood behind me. There is. I turned around. You know what he is? No. But Damon Kells does. Ronan's guards brought the false chauffeur into the study. His hands were restrained and dried blood marked the side of his face. The man smiled when he saw me. I was wondering which Milo would reach me first. Ronan stepped between us. Where is the Meridian drive? The survivor has it. There is only one Milo Arden. The chauffeur laughed. That is what Dr. Kells wants to discover. Ronan's alpha presence filled the room. The prisoner's smile weakened, but he continued speaking. Your second chance was not a gift, Mr. Veyr. Neither was his. A cold sensation moved through my body. What does that mean? The chauffeur looked directly at me. You believe you returned because fate wanted to save you. Dr. Kells believes you returned because something pulled your consciousness backward. Project Meridian, I whispered. He said nothing else. Ronan ordered his guards to take him away. My father appeared at the study door despite the doctor's instructions. My mother supported him as he walked. What did he say? My father asked. I told him. His face lost what little color remained. Project Meridian was designed to repair damaged nerves, I said. How could it affect someone's memories? My father sat down. That was the purpose of the official project. Damon believed damaged brain tissue contained more than lost memories. He believed every choice created a pattern that continued to exist even after death. Ronan's gaze sharpened. A separate timeline. Damon called it an echo. He claimed a powerful shock could force the mind to connect with another version of itself. That sounds impossible, my mother said. I thought so too. Then he tested an unfinished device on 3 patients without permission. They woke with memories that did not belong to them. What kind of memories? One remembered a wife he had never married. Another remembered dying in a war that never happened. The third became violent and insisted that everyone around him had been replaced. My father pressed a hand to his injured head. I closed the research division and destroyed the device. Damon disappeared after a laboratory fire. We believed he died inside. He survived, Ronan said. Then he continued his experiments. I thought about my final moments in the burning laboratory. Project Meridian had been stored inside that building. What if the fire activated his device? My father stared at me. I told my parents the truth. I told them about my previous life. I told them how Luca stole the company and how my mother died. I told them about my father's arrest and the laboratory fire. My mother covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. My father listened without interrupting. When I finished, he looked toward Ronan. Do you remember the same future? Yes. Then both of you were connected to the device. Ronan shook his head. I was several miles away when I died. But you were inside the laboratory before the fire. The device may have affected you then. My phone vibrated. A message had arrived from my own number. Do not trust Ronan. A photograph followed. The other Milo stood in front of an underground station. He held the stolen drive in one hand. Come alone if you want the truth about which one of us belongs here. Ronan read the message over my shoulder. You are not going. If he has my memories, he might know what Luca is planning. He might also be working with Luca. Then we need to find out. I will not use you as bait. You do not control me because we signed a marriage agreement. Ronan became silent. I immediately regretted the harshness of my words, but I did not take them back. He moved closer. You are right. I do not control you. His voice was quiet. But I remember standing outside that burning building while you screamed. I remember knowing I was too late. If you expect me to send you into another trap alone, then you do not understand what that memory did to me. The pain in his eyes removed every argument from my mind. I will not go alone, I said. But he must believe I did. We created a plan. Ronan's team tracked the photograph to an unfinished underground station beneath the financial district. I would enter through the main tunnel while Ronan and his guards used a maintenance passage. Before we left, Ronan gave me a silver ring. I looked at him in surprise. It contains a tracking device, he explained. Press the center twice if you are in danger. You carry engagement rings with tracking devices? I had it made before our meeting. You were that certain I would accept? No. For the first time, a faint smile touched his face. I was hoping. I placed the ring on my finger. It fit perfectly. The station was dark when I arrived. Water dripped from the unfinished ceiling. My footsteps echoed along the empty platform. I am here, I called. A figure emerged from behind a concrete pillar. Seeing my own face on another person made every instinct inside me recoil. He wore a gray coat and held the Meridian drive. His face looked exhausted. A fading burn scar covered the side of his neck. You came, he said. His voice was mine. Who are you? I am Milo Arden. No. I am. That is what Ronan told you. He moved closer. I pressed the center of the ring once, but waited before sending the emergency signal. What do you remember? I remember Luca locking us inside the laboratory. Then you remember dying. I did not die. Damon pulled me from the building. That never happened. It happened to me. He reached inside his coat and removed an old wooden horse. My grandfather had carved it for me when I was 6. I buried it beneath a tree after his funeral. I had never told anyone where it was. The other Milo placed it in my hand. You buried this because you blamed yourself for grandfather's death. You argued with him the morning he had his final heart attack. My throat tightened. How do you know that? Because I felt the same guilt. He looked toward the darkness behind me. Ronan is listening. He is always listening. If you are really me, then give me the drive. I cannot. It is the only thing keeping Damon from killing me. Damon created you. He saved me. He kidnapped my mother and attacked my father. No. Luca did that. They are working together. The other Milo shook his head. Luca thinks Damon is helping him steal the research. He does not know the real plan. What is the real plan? To decide which memories are strong enough to replace reality. A sound came from the tunnel. The other Milo grabbed my arm. We need to leave. I pressed the ring twice. Ronan and his team entered the platform. The other Milo stepped back in fear. Do not let him take me. Ronan stopped when he saw us. Give Milo the drive. You mean give it to the version you chose? The other Milo pulled a small device from his pocket and projected a video onto the concrete wall. The recording showed the night of the laboratory fire. Ronan entered the building before the flames began. He found my unconscious body on the ground floor. Then he lifted me into his arms and carried me through a side door. My blood turned cold. Ronan had told me he woke after the attack and heard me trapped upstairs. The video showed something completely different. Ronan had escaped with me before the fire. The other Milo looked into my eyes. Ask your husband what he did with the Milo he carried out. End of Part 4. Part 5. I looked from the recording to Ronan. Tell me he is lying. The video is real, Ronan said. The answer struck me harder than any denial could have. His guards remained at the tunnel entrances, but the tension between us made the entire station feel unsafe. You carried me out. I carried someone with your face. The other Milo laughed bitterly. Now he admits it. Ronan ignored him. When I entered the laboratory, I found a man who looked exactly like you. He was unconscious on the ground floor. I believed I had found you before Luca could start the fire. What happened after you took him outside? He woke and attacked me. Ronan touched the scar across his eyebrow. He injected something into my neck. I lost consciousness beside the building. When I woke, the fire had already reached the upper floors. That was when I heard the real Milo calling for help. I remembered the other voice inside the building. It had sounded like mine. At the time, I believed the smoke and fear were confusing my senses. Why did you never tell me this? You were dead before I understood what I had seen. I spent the next 3 days searching for the duplicate and Damon Kells. Then my car exploded. The other Milo tightened his grip around the drive. He is changing the story because you saw proof. Ronan looked at him. If you were the man I carried outside, then you know what you injected into me. I was frightened. You were waiting for me. No. You opened your eyes before I reached the door. You watched me carry you through the corridor and pretended to be unconscious. The other Milo's expression changed. It was a tiny reaction, but I recognized it because it was my face. He remembered. Ronan saw it too. You are not only carrying Milo's memories, he said. You remember attacking me. The other Milo stepped back. I did what Damon told me to do. Then Damon created you. He saved me. From what? The other Milo's lips parted, but no answer came. A sharp sound echoed through the tunnel. Ronan moved before anyone else. He pulled me behind a concrete pillar, as something struck the wall where I had been standing. His guards raised their weapons. Smoke canisters rolled across the platform and filled the station with thick gray clouds. Stay beside me, Ronan ordered. I covered my mouth and tried to see through the smoke. Someone grabbed my coat. I struck the person and heard him fall, but another figure appeared behind me. Ronan pushed him away and kept his body between me and the attackers. The other Milo shouted, "Let me go." I followed his voice through the smoke. 2 masked men were dragging him toward the northern tunnel. He still held the Meridian drive. I pressed the tracking ring and pointed toward them. There. Ronan's guards followed, but an explosion shook the platform. Part of the unfinished ceiling collapsed between us and the attackers. When the smoke cleared, the other Milo was gone. Ronan's team found a service vehicle abandoned beyond the next station. Luca's men had changed cars before they could be surrounded. I noticed blood on the ground where the other Milo had been standing. I collected a small sample using a clean handkerchief. We can test this. Ronan looked at the blood. You believe he might really be you? He has memories no one else could know. Memories can be copied if your father was right about Meridian. But his fear was real. So was yours when Luca manipulated you. I looked away. Ronan touched my shoulder carefully. I am not blaming you. I know. Whatever he is, we will find him. The wooden horse remained in my hand. Its surface was scratched and wet with soil. After leaving the station, we drove to the old Arden estate where my grandfather had lived. I led Ronan to a large tree near the western wall. The ground beneath it had recently been disturbed. The other Milo had not been given a copy of the wooden horse. He had remembered where I buried the original and recovered it himself. Back at my parents' house, my father sent the blood sample to Arden Medical under the highest security level. The results arrived 1 hour later. My father placed them on the dining room table. The DNA is identical to Milo's. My mother gripped the back of a chair. Identical twins? No. Milo was born alone. Then he is a clone. My father looked troubled. A complete adult clone should not be possible. Even if Damon started growing him years ago, there would be physical differences caused by the environment. This sample has Milo's current biological markers. What does that mean? I asked. It means his body is not only genetically identical. It appears to have lived your exact life until recently. Ronan read the final page. His cells are deteriorating. Rapidly, my father confirmed. He may have weeks left. Possibly less. That explained why the other Milo needed Damon. He was not protecting the drive because he trusted his creator. He was protecting it because he wanted to survive. My phone rang again. This time the number belonged to Luca. Ronan activated a recording system before I answered. Luca appeared on the screen. He stood inside a bright laboratory. The other Milo was restrained in a chair behind him. You keep making everything difficult, Luca said. Release him. Luca smiled. You believe him now? I believe you kidnapped him. He stole your face and your family. Yet you still want to save him. That is the weakness I always loved about you. You never loved anything except what you could take from me. Pain flashed across his face. For the first time I wondered if Luca had convinced himself that his obsession was love. You chose Ronan because your parents told you to. I chose Ronan because I finally saw you clearly. His expression turned cold. A man wearing a white medical coat walked into view. He appeared to be in his late 50s. Burn scars covered the left side of his face. Damon Kells. Good evening, Milo, he said. You used my mother to steal the drive. Luca made that decision. I only needed the result. The other Milo struggled against the restraints. Damon, you promised to stabilize me. And I will. Damon lifted the Meridian drive. Once the final transfer begins. My father moved closer to the screen. Damon, stop this. Meridian was never meant to create life. Damon's burned face twisted with anger. You buried the greatest discovery in human history because you were afraid of it. 3 people nearly died. 3 people remembered worlds that no longer existed. Damon placed a hand on the other Milo's shoulder. This young man is proof that memory can become flesh. What do you want? I asked. To complete the experiment. A digital clock appeared behind him. 23 hours and 59 minutes remained. Damon explained that the fire in my previous life had connected my dying consciousness to the unfinished Meridian device. My memories traveled backward, but the device had created 2 destinations. My younger body received one set. The artificial body received the other. There cannot be 2 stable versions of the same consciousness, Damon said. Reality will eventually reject one of you. What happens when that clock reaches 0? The transfer begins. One mind becomes permanent. My mother's voice shook. And the other? Damon smiled. The other Milo disappears. The duplicate raised his head and looked into the camera. Tears moved down the face we shared. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I do not want to steal your life." Then his eyes shifted toward Ronan. "But Damon showed me the final memory you have forgotten." The clock continued counting down. The other Milo spoke again. "Only one of us can survive, and Ronan has already chosen which Milo he intends to sacrifice." End of Part 5. Part 6. I turned toward Ronan. "Which one of us did you choose?" "I chose neither." The answer came immediately, but Damon laughed through the phone. "Show him the second photograph, Mr. Veyr." Ronan's expression became cold. I understood before he reached inside his coat. "There is another photograph." He removed a folded image and placed it on the table. It showed the same laboratory after the fire. Two bodies with my face were lying several feet apart. Ronan was kneeling beside one of them. His hand rested over the man's heart. The other body had been covered with a white sheet. I looked for something that would tell me which one was mine. The man beside Ronan wore the silver tracking ring. I looked down at the ring on my finger. "You had this made because you saw it in the photograph." "Yes." "You knew one of us would die." "I knew Damon wanted me to believe that." The video call remained active. Damon watched our argument with visible satisfaction. "Tell him the rest," he said. Ronan faced the screen. "There is nothing else." "Then I will tell him." The photograph was accompanied by a message. "When the transfer begins, Ronan must choose which consciousness the machine will preserve." My mother stepped in front of me. "He will not choose my son's life." Damon smiled. "Both of them are your son. They have his memories and his blood. They remember your voice. They both love you. Which one deserves to exist?" My mother's face collapsed with pain. I ended the call. The countdown continued on my phone. 23 hours remained. Ronan reached for me, but I stepped away. "You should have shown me the photograph." "I was trying to determine if it was real." "You made that decision for me." "I was afraid you would see the body under the sheet, and assume the future could not be changed." "I died once because I allowed Luca to make every decision for me. I will not give that power to anyone again." "You are right." His quiet agreement stopped my anger. Ronan removed his phone and sent me every file he had collected. There were no more hidden photographs or messages. "I should have trusted you with the truth," he said. "It will not happen again." I wanted to remain angry, but I could see the fear behind his controlled expression. "Would you sacrifice the other Milo to save me?" "No." "What if there is no other way?" "Then I will find one." "You cannot promise that." "I can promise I will destroy Damon's machine before I let him decide which of you deserves to live." My father studied the photograph. "The machine will need an enormous and stable energy source. Damon cannot operate it in an ordinary laboratory." Ronan opened a map of the city. "My father funded a private research facility beneath the old Veyr power station. It was abandoned after Damon disappeared." "You knew Damon?" I asked. "I met him once when I was 20. He treated me after a serious car accident." My father looked at him sharply. "What kind of treatment?" "Experimental neural repair." My father said it was the only reason I recovered. "That is why your consciousness returned with Milo's. Damon connected you to an early Meridian system years before the laboratory fire." Ronan entered a security code on the map. The abandoned power station belonged to a Veyr holding company. Official records claimed the lower levels had been sealed, but the facility continued using electricity. We had found Damon. Ronan prepared an operation with his security team. My father contacted two scientists who had helped design Meridian. They believed both consciousness patterns could survive if the device separated them, instead of forcing them to compete. The process would be dangerous. It was still our only chance. Before we left, my mother pulled me into her arms. "Bring both of my sons home." Her words made my throat tighten. She had known the other Milo for only a few minutes through a screen. She still refused to let him die. Ronan and I traveled to the power station together. The building stood outside the city behind rusted gates. Rain covered the dark windows. His team entered through 3 different service passages. Ronan and I used an elevator hidden inside the former control room. As it descended, he took my hand. This time I did not pull away. "I need to tell you why I accepted the first marriage proposal," he said. "You never had the chance to accept it. I refused you. I had already signed my copy of the agreement." "Why?" "We met once before." I searched my memories. I would remember meeting you. 7 years ago my father died at Arden Hospital. I was alone outside the intensive care unit. You sat beside me and stayed until morning. I remembered a young alpha wearing a damaged suit. His face had been bruised after a car accident and a bandage covered his eyebrow. I had never learned his name. That was you. You gave me your grandfather's wooden horse because I could not stop shaking. I looked at the object still inside my coat. I buried it after grandfather died. You dug it up years later. You said it helped you survive your worst day, and you wanted it to help me survive mine. My eyes burned. Ronan lifted my hand and pressed it against his chest. I kept it until the laboratory fire. The duplicate must have taken it after attacking me. You wanted to marry me because I sat beside you for one night? I wanted to meet you again. Marriage was the opportunity our families created. The elevator slowed. I wanted to say something, but the doors opened before I found the words. The underground laboratory was active. White corridors stretched in both directions. A mechanical vibration moved through the floor. Ronan's team reported that the western entrance was clear. We headed toward the central chamber. Halfway there the lights went out. Emergency lights flashed red. Metal doors slammed down and separated us from the guards. Ronan pulled me close. Gas entered through the ventilation system. "Hold your breath." He fired at the nearest control panel, but the door remained locked. My vision blurred. Ronan struck the metal barrier until blood covered his hand. I tried to stay conscious. The last thing I felt was his arm around me. When I woke, I was inside a glass chamber. The other Milo stood inside an identical chamber across from me. He looked weak and terrified. Ronan was restrained in a chair between us. Luca stood beside the main control system, while Damon connected the Meridian drive. "You came for me," Luca said. "I came to stop you. You will understand when Damon removes the memories Ronan planted inside your mind." "No one planted them." "Then why do you remember a life that has not happened?" "Because I lived it. And in that life you loved me. I died hating you." Luca's face twisted. He pressed a button and pain shot through my head. Ronan fought against his restraints. "Touch him again and I will kill you." Damon watched the countdown. "Threats will not matter soon." The other Milo placed his hand against the glass. "Damon promised we could both survive." "He lied to both of us," I said. Damon activated the machine. The countdown changed from 22 hours to 60 seconds. My father's calculations had been wrong. The transfer was beginning now. Ronan broke one of his restraints, but Luca placed a weapon against his head. "Choose," Damon ordered. "The Milo wearing the ring or the Milo who remembers surviving the fire?" "I will not choose." "Then the machine will choose for you." The final seconds disappeared. A violent light filled both chambers. My memories tore apart. I felt the fire again. I felt Ronan carrying me. I felt myself attacking him. 2 lives entered my mind at once. Then everything became silent. When I opened my eyes, I was standing outside the glass chamber. Across the room, my own body was still trapped inside it. Ronan freed himself and picked up Luca's weapon. He aimed it between us. Both Milo and I spoke at the same time. "Ronan, it is me." End of Part 6. Part 7. I looked down at my hands. The silver ring was gone. It remained on the finger of the body inside the glass chamber. I was standing inside the duplicate's dying body. The other Milo had awakened inside mine. Damon had switched us. Ronan kept the weapon raised, but did not aim directly at either of us. "Tell me which one is Milo," Luca demanded. Damon watched us with fascination. "They both are." That is impossible. No. It is perfect. The original consciousness entered the artificial body, while the copied consciousness entered the natural one. Luca pointed at me. Then move him back. The transfer cannot be reversed without destroying one of them. The other Milo pressed both hands against the glass. Ronan, do not listen to him. I said the same words at the same moment. We both stopped. I could feel the other Milo's fear inside my own mind. Our memories were no longer only identical. They were connected. I remembered being carried from the laboratory by Ronan. I remembered waking in Damon's hidden facility after the fire. I remembered months of painful treatments while Damon repeatedly told me I was the only real Milo. Those memories had never belonged to me before. The other Milo was receiving my memories too. He touched the glass and looked at Ronan with tears in his eyes. I remember dying upstairs. Damon smiled. The synchronization is complete. Ronan lowered the weapon. Luca grabbed his arm. What are you doing? I am not choosing between them. One is a copy. They are both alive. You were supposed to protect Milo. That is what I am doing. Ronan aimed at the central control system and fired. The machine exploded in a shower of sparks. Damon shouted as alarms filled the laboratory. The door of my chamber opened. I fell onto the floor. Pain moved through every part of the artificial body. The skin on my hands had already begun turning pale. Ronan reached me first. He helped me stand and searched my face. Which memories do you have? All of them. Do you know who you are? I am Milo. The other chamber opened. The second Milo stepped out wearing my original body and the silver ring. I am Milo too. Luca stared at both of us. His face became twisted with confusion and rage. This was not the agreement. Damon removed the Meridian drive from the damaged control system. You wanted Milo's memories restored. I restored them. You promised he would love me again. I cannot create a feeling that never existed in the pattern. Luca's eyes moved toward me. You loved me. I loved the person you pretended to be. The other Milo stepped beside me. So did I. Hearing the words from both of us destroyed the last of Luca's control. He raised his weapon toward Ronan. If you had never appeared, Milo would still be mine. The shot echoed through the laboratory. Ronan moved in front of us. Blood spread across his shoulder. I caught him before he fell. The other Milo attacked Luca. He struck Luca's wrist and the weapon slid across the floor. Luca grabbed him by the throat. I lowered Ronan carefully and rushed forward. The two of us fought Luca together. We moved with the same instincts. When I struck from the left, the other Milo understood and moved right. Luca could not defend himself against both of us. We forced him to the floor. Ronan picked up the fallen weapon despite his injury. Do not move. Damon used the confusion to escape through the rear door with the Meridian drive. The laboratory began shaking. A mechanical voice announced that the lower levels would be destroyed in 10 minutes. He activated the emergency system, Ronan said. His security team broke through the sealed corridor and entered the room. They restrained Luca, while 2 guards treated Ronan's shoulder. We have to follow Damon, I said. Ronan looked at my hands. Dark lines were spreading beneath the skin. You need treatment. The drive is the treatment. The other Milo touched his chest. My body feels stable, but our minds are still connected. If his body dies, I do not know what will happen to me. Ronan ordered his team to evacuate Luca and contact my father. We followed Damon through the rear corridor. The passage led to an older section of the research facility. Rust covered the walls and water flooded the floor. Every few seconds another explosion shook the building. My father's voice came through Ronan's communication device. I received the machine data before Ronan destroyed the system. Both neural patterns survived, but they are overlapping. Can you separate them? Ronan asked. Yes, but I need the Meridian drive. Damon has it. There is another problem. The artificial body was connected to the device for years. Removing it caused rapid cellular failure. I leaned against the wall as another wave of pain passed through me. How much time do I have? Minutes if the deterioration continues at this rate. The other Milo grabbed my arm. You are not dying because of me. I do not think either of us controls that. We can put you back in the original body. And erase you? His face became still. You belong there. That body contains your mind now. It belongs to you too. Ronan looked at us with anger and fear. No one is sacrificing himself. We find Damon and take the drive. We continued toward the upper level. The corridor divided into two paths. Fresh blood marked the floor on the right. Damon had been injured by the explosion. We followed it into a storage room, filled with abandoned medical equipment. The blood trail ended beside an open elevator. Ronan pressed the button, but the system had been disabled. He is going to the roof, he said. We entered the emergency stairway. My artificial body grew weaker with every step. The other Milo placed my arm around his shoulders and helped me climb. You need another name, I said. He looked at me. Why? Because shouting Milo every time one of us is in danger will become confusing. Despite everything, he laughed. It felt strange to hear my own laugh coming from someone else. If we survive, I will choose one. When we survive. He nodded. When we survive. We reached the upper floor with 6 minutes remaining. A locked security door blocked the stairs. Ronan used his access code, but Damon had changed the system. My father continued analyzing the transfer data, while Ronan's guards attempted to break the door. Then my father became silent. What is it? I asked. I found a way to stabilize both bodies. Relief moved across the other Milo's face. How? The original Meridian pattern was created from 3 connected minds. Milo's consciousness, the duplicate's developing consciousness, and Ronan's memories from the first timeline. Ronan looked at the communication device. What do you need from me? Your neural pattern is acting as the bridge between them. If we transfer that pattern into the artificial body, it could repair the damage and separate both versions of Milo. Then do it. Ronan, wait, my father said. What is the cost? The hesitation in my father's voice gave me the answer before he spoke. The process will remove every memory connected to the bridge. Ronan remained calm. Be specific. You will lose everything that happened after you first met Milo 7 years ago. Both timelines will disappear from your mind. I stared at Ronan. He would forget the marriage. He would forget searching for me after my family collapsed. He would forget trying to save me from the laboratory. He would forget dying and returning. He would forget why he had placed the silver ring on my finger. The security door finally broke open. Cold rain entered from the roof. Damon stood near the edge with the Meridian drive in his hand. A detonator rested in his other hand. 5 minutes remained before the facility collapsed. Damon looked at Ronan and smiled. You can save them both. He lifted the drive. But the moment you do, you will forget that you ever loved Milo Arden. End of Part 7. Part 8. Rain fell across the roof as Damon held the Meridian drive above the edge. The detonator remained in his other hand. Ronan stepped forward. Give me the drive. You still believe you can command the ending, Damon said. You cannot save both versions of Milo and keep your memories. Choose what matters more. Ronan looked at me. My artificial body was failing. The dark lines beneath my skin had reached my arms, and every breath felt painful. Then he looked at the other Milo. You once asked what I was willing to sacrifice to protect him, Ronan said. You assumed the answer would be another life. He placed his weapon on the ground. I choose my memories. My chest tightened. No. Ronan continued walking toward Damon. You cannot decide this for me, Milo. You will forget everything. I forgot you in the first life before we had the chance to begin. I still found my way back to you. That does not mean it will happen again. He stopped in front of me and touched my face. I did not love you because a machine connected our memories. I loved you because you stayed beside a grieving stranger for an entire night. You gave kindness without asking for anything in return. His thumb moved gently beneath my eye. If I forget you, then tell me that story. And if you still feel nothing? Then I will have the privilege of meeting you again. Damon's face twisted with frustration. You think love makes you powerful. It only makes you predictable. He pressed the detonator. Nothing happened. The other Milo held up the disconnected signal wire. While Damon was watching us, he had moved behind the emergency control box and disabled the rooftop receiver. Damon tried to throw the Meridian drive from the roof. Ronan caught his wrist. They struggled near the edge. Damon struck Ronan's injured shoulder and blood spread through the bandage. Ronan lost his balance. I grabbed his coat. The other Milo caught my arm before all three of us fell. Ronan forced Damon away from the ledge. The drive slipped from Damon's hand. It landed on the wet concrete and slid toward the edge. I released Ronan and threw myself after it. My fingers closed around the drive just before it fell. Damon ran toward the stairway, but Ronan's security team emerged through the broken door. They surrounded him and forced him to the ground. The facility alarm announced 2 minutes remaining. We have to move, Ronan said. My legs stopped supporting me. He lifted me into his arms. The other Milo led us back down the stairs while Ronan's guards took Damon into custody. We reached the central laboratory, with less than 1 minute remaining. My father guided us through the procedure using the communication system. The other Milo connected the Meridian drive to the damaged controls. Emergency power returned to both glass chambers. Ronan placed me inside one. He entered the second chamber without hesitation. Ronan. He looked at me through the glass. Tell me your name when I wake up. The doors closed. The transfer began. Pain moved through my body, but beneath it I felt something warm. Ronan's memories surrounded me. I saw myself sitting beside him at the hospital 7 years earlier. I saw him signing the first marriage agreement before I rejected him. I felt his helplessness as he stood outside the burning laboratory. I felt the hope he carried when he woke in the past and realized he had another chance to save me. Then each memory disappeared. The damaged cells inside my body began repairing themselves. The connection between the two versions of my consciousness slowly separated. For one final moment, the other Milo and I shared the same mind. I felt his fear of disappearing. He felt my determination to protect him. Neither of us tried to take control. We simply let go. The facility's emergency destruction sequence stopped with 3 seconds remaining. Silence filled the laboratory. The chamber opened and I fell forward. My mother and father had arrived with the medical team. My father caught me and checked my pulse. Your body is stable. Across the room, the other Milo opened his eyes. The connection between us was gone. He still had my face and my original body, but the memories inside him now belonged only to himself. Our mother embraced us both. Ronan's chamber opened last. He remained unconscious for several minutes. I knelt beside him and held his hand. Finally his eyes opened. He looked at my father, then at my mother. His gaze moved to the other Milo before settling on me. There was no recognition in his expression. Who are you? The question broke my heart, but I forced myself to smile. My name is Milo Arden. Ronan looked at our joined hands. Why are you holding my hand? You once told me I would never have to beg someone to save me again. I said that. Yes. He slowly withdrew his hand. I am sorry. I do not remember you. I know. Damon and Luca were arrested that night. The evidence inside the laboratory revealed years of illegal experiments and corporate theft. My father was able to remove every person Luca had placed inside Arden Medical. Project Meridian was permanently closed. The second Milo chose a new name. He called himself Nico Arden. My parents welcomed him as their son. Nico decided to study neural medicine, so he could help the surviving victims of Damon's experiments. Ronan recovered at Veyr House. He remembered his company and most of his life, but every memory connected to me had disappeared. Our marriage agreement remained legally valid. 1 week after leaving the hospital, he placed it in front of me. You are free to end this. Is that what you want? I do not know you. Then let me introduce myself. His eyes remained cautious. I told him about the night we met at the hospital. I showed him the wooden horse and explained why I had given it to him. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he touched the scar across his eyebrow. I believe you, but I cannot promise that I will become the man you remember. I am not asking you to become him. What are you asking? One honest beginning. Ronan agreed to 30 days. I moved into Veyr house but stayed in a separate room. We ate breakfast together and worked side by side to rebuild Arden Medical. He was still feared by everyone around him. With me he became quietly curious. He asked why I drank tea without sugar. He learned that I read when I was nervous. He began waiting outside my office every evening so we could return home together. 30 days passed. He never mentioned ending the marriage. 3 months later he took me to the hospital where we had first met. We sat on the same bench outside the intensive care unit. Ronan placed a small box in my hand. Inside was a silver ring. It looked like the tracking ring, but there was no device hidden inside it. I do not remember loving you before, he said. I tried to force the memories to return, but they never did. I lowered my eyes. Ronan lifted my chin. That does not mean I feel nothing. He took the ring from the box. I fell in love with you again. Tears filled my eyes. Are you certain? I was certain before I understood why. He placed the ring on my finger. It fit perfectly. Ronan leaned closer but waited for my permission. I closed the distance between us and kissed him. There was no machine connecting our minds. There was no agreement forcing us together. There was only a choice freely made. A year later, Arden Medical opened a recovery center for the victims of illegal neural experiments. Nico became the center's youngest director, and finally built a life that belonged only to him. My parents renewed their wedding vows with both of their sons standing beside them. Luca remained in prison. Damon's research was destroyed. Ronan and I held a private bonding ceremony in the garden of Veyr house. Before we exchanged our promises, he placed the old wooden horse on the table. I still do not remember the first time you gave this to me, he said. That is all right. But whenever I hold it, I feel as if I survived something terrible because you stayed beside me. I took his hand. Maybe the heart remembers what the mind cannot. Ronan smiled and kissed my forehead. In my first life, I abandoned everyone who loved me and followed a beautiful lie. In my second life, I listened to the people who had never stopped protecting me. That choice led me to the alpha everyone feared. The man who sacrificed every memory of our love to save me. And the man who still chose to love me all over again. End of Part 8. And that is the end of Milo and Ronan's unforgettable story. Milo was given a second chance to correct the choice that destroyed his first life. Ronan sacrificed every precious memory of their love to save him. Yet even after forgetting everything they had shared, his heart still found its way back to Milo. Because true love is not created by fate or memories. It is a choice we make again and again. If this story touched your heart, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel for more emotional BL stories, filled with romance, betrayal, and second chances. And now I want to hear from you in the comments. Would you sacrifice every memory of the person you love to save their life? Also tell me which character you connected with most. Milo, Ronan, or Nico. Thank you for staying with this story until the very end. Your support helps this channel grow and allows us to bring you even more unforgettable love stories. Until our next story, remember this. Even when the mind forgets, the heart may still remember.